Valtteri Bottas wins the Austrian Grand Prix as I told you he would. What a weekend of racing it was. My goodness. Welcome back to Peter on Pole. Oh my goodness. What an Austrian Grand Prix we had. What a season opener we had. It was action-packed. It was full of stuff. Let's talk about the Austrian Grand Prix. So it was a great race at the start, at the beginning. No cars crashed, which is great. Everyone made it through to turn one, which was brilliant. You had a great start from Bottas. He done very, very well. Quite worryingly, the Racing Point didn't do too well. So they were struggling for pace on the opening lap. Remember what in qualifying what was said that, Perez said that they'll be ready to go from the off. It didn't quite work out that way. Only one change in the top 10 drivers at this opening lap of the Grand Prix, which was Sebastian Vettel and Ricciardo. They switched places. So Vettel got up to 10th place. It was a good start for him at least. As the race went on, Lando Norris started slipping for pace. It just seemed like the McLarens didn't really quite have the pace with what was going on at the start. And I was getting a bit worried. I was getting a bit nervous with them. George Russell didn't have the greatest of starts either, starting in 17th, but slipped straight down to 19th. Also sliding down the pack as well was Ocon. Ocon, great to see him back in the race. He started in 14th place and slipped down to 16th. Hamilton seemed to gain time on Bottas, and so he looked like he was closing in. You could see the fight really starting to kick off between Bottas and Hamilton. Max Verstappen, oh no, losing power at lap 11. The car was slowly he was having to bump start the car. The engine kept stalling on him. Obviously fell down straight to the back of the grid at 20th place at the time. And then he had to change the tyres. He tried to change the tyre, and then at that point, they tried changing his tyre to the hard tyre, and instead ended up retiring the car. So that was our first retirement, was Max Verstappen. Guess who else had no power? Lance Stroll. I can't believe it. Lance Stroll, lap 16. He's another one that lost power. And guess what? Lap 18. Danny Ricciardo, the car overheating. Oh, these reliability issues with these cars, I don't understand it. No power there. He had an issue as well with that. It was a gearbox problem as well with his car. He just was stuck in third gear. He couldn't get anything more out of that car. So lap 18, Danny Ricciardo out of the race. So Stroll had power, but not enough, as Sebastian Vettel had passed him in lap 18, to the extent even Gasly was passing him as well by lap 22, and the team came on the radio saying there's a sensor issue with the car. So that car had to go into retirement. Magnussen, brilliant spin-off in style at lap 26 due to a brake issue. So his car went off the track, he retired, which brought out our first safety car. The safety car lasted from lap 26 to lap 30. And as soon as all the cars went into the garage to go get their cars changed, as they normally would when a safety car comes out, it's a great time to go and get your cars changed, regain your position and crack on. Norris and Perez both left the pit lane at the exact same... Well, Norris left first, but was behind Perez, and Perez was released. And then they almost came, if you see how close that is. Oh, they came so close into hitting each other. That was in lap 27. The stewards reviewed it, didn't seem anything wrong with it, so they cracked on with the race. And from the restart, I tell you what, from the restart, it was incredible. You had Carlos Sainz closing in on Charles Leclerc. At the same time, Sebastian Vettel was coming down towards Carlos Sainz, but he touches sides. He locks up the front right tyre, and as he's turning, he spins, and the car just goes into a complete 360, well, even 180 even. And yeah, it was just an absolute cluster for Sebastian Vettel, who dropped all the way down to 15th place. Another problem, yet another mistake, Sebastian. What is going on? Under the safety car, all the Mercedes drivers switched to the hard compound tyre. Bottas was struggling with that compound tyre, but Hamilton was loving it, and he was chasing him down, and this race was going on. Everyone on the grid except Sergio Perez changed for the hard tyre. Perez was on to the medium tyre. I think he was on a slower medium tyre as well. I think he had already used that tyre. Lap 38, Russell moves all the way up to 12th. George Russell was having a great race. He skims through up into 12th place. By lap 42, Lewis Hamilton was right on the neck of Bottas when team radio for both Mercedes drivers came on, and they said that there is an issue with the car, with the sensors of the car, so you need to look after the car. Do not drive on the curbs. By the way, they were getting this at the start of the race, not to be hitting the curbs as hard, because if you see all the issues that other drivers were having, it seemed to be linked with reliability, of course, and whether or not maybe the track was just a bit too rough for the cars at the moment. Remember, it's the first race of the season, and so the cars are not used to running out for this long. So we'll see what happens on throughout the rest of the season as well. By lap 47, obviously Mercedes are still not listening. These drivers are not listening to each other, right? They're not listening to their team principals, to their team radios. And then James comes on. So the big dog, yeah, the big dog James, he comes on and literally tells them both, the car is in critical condition. You need to come off those curbs. To the point where they were saying that the gearbox was going to fail. So James was saying to both of them, I think it's James Allison or it's James somebody else. I can't remember the name. Why have I not remembered the name? But yeah, James said that, listen, make sure you look after the car. The gearbox is close to fail. And then Bono, Lewis's driving engineer, Bono says, mate, Lewis, that's the red and white curves, by the way, just in case you didn't know. I mean, all the curves are red and white. What's he doing? Obviously, there's a few tracks that have, there's a few turns that have yellow bumps as well. But hey ho, these guys weren't listening and then they were getting punished for it. At this point, I was thinking, well, I'll go on for Perez and Albon because they were on the better tyres, brand new tyres, especially for Albon. He was on a fresher set of tyres. So he could have easily gone down this race. At this moment in time, he's in third place. So I'm thinking, why have they not closed the gap? Why haven't they closed this gap? They should be chasing these guys down. They should be able to overtake both Mercedes, but they didn't. Lap 50, guess what? Romain Grosjean, lap 50, he was gone. Turn 4, he came off spinning. He had an issue. At least this time it wasn't his fault. He had an issue with his brakes, another brake failure for another car. Lap 51, guess what? George Russell, oh no. Lap 51, he loses power as well, and he's had to retire. And guess what? The second safety car is out. And this safety car lasted for 3 laps, came in and out in 54 laps. This was huge news for Perez and Albon, because at this point in time, Albon had actually overtaken Perez just under the, I think it was just under when the safety car was coming out. Albon had overtaken Perez, so he was in third place, but then had to give it back, but then gave it back. Brilliant. It was fantastic. So this was huge for Perez and Albon. We go back onto the race again. Guess what? Another safety car comes out. Why? Because Kimi Raikkonen's crashed out. This is unbelievable. Kimi Raikkonen out, all because of what? Some muppet in the pit garage didn't put his wheel on properly, and so his front right tire just flew off the car, nearly hit Sebastian Vettel. I'm surprised he dodged it. I don't know how he dodged it. These cars are flying at such rates, such high speed, and he managed to dodge it. But again, safety car had to come out. So at this point, lap 57, 13 cars remained. 13 were remaining on the circuit out of 20. Unbelievable. Safety car came in this time at lap 60. And then Albon and Hamilton, it was nip and tuck. It was really, really good. And then what happened? Albon spins off the circuit. Oh, God. Albon is touched by Lewis Hamilton and is spun off the track, which is such a shame. I blame Lewis for it because I think Albon had got ahead of Lewis before the turn was complete, but Lewis didn't leave him enough space. Might not be his fault because he had his whole hand was proper rotated. He didn't unrotate it. He kept it there trying to turn, so I guess he just didn't see him, and there you go. That's what happened, unfortunately. Lewis then gets a 5-place grid penalty. After that, in lap 66, they finally confirmed it. It was under investigation. He gets the grid place penalty for that. Leclerc, meanwhile, has gone up to 3rd place. He's just slowly just moving his way from. Remember, he started at 7th in the grid, and he's just slowly moving his way, making his way up to the 3rd part of the grid. And then Sergio Perez gets a 5-second place penalty as well. 5-second penalty, grid, 5-second penalty. That's what it is. It's 5 seconds penalty. He gets a 5-second penalty because he was speeding in the pit lane. What a muppet. Why are you speeding? I think it was under the safety car. There was a moment when Raikkonen's crash had happened. The safety car guided the cars to go through the pit lane rather than through the main straight because Raikkonen's car was right there. Dangerous, of course. So they went through the pit lane, and obviously you have a speed limiter in the pit lane. You can't go more than 100 kilometers an hour, which is about 60, 61, 62 miles per hour. But after that, Albon actually goes out because of an engine failure. Red Bull, what's going on? What is happening, Red Bull? They've got another car that's out. It's been a horrible day. Lap 69, Albon out. In the same lap, Norris goes into 4th place, overtaking Perez. Perez is having a mare at the minute. There's nothing quite going right for him at this moment in time. He ends up into 4th place. Perez is 5th. Lap 70, guess who else? Another out, another retirement. It was Daniel Kvyat. Oh, he had a puncture in his car this time round. I guess there was a bit of debris still laying around somewhere. That leaves us with 11 cars left. 11 cars. I can't believe it. I genuinely can't believe it. Lap 71, Bottas wins the Austrian Grand Prix with Charles Leclerc 2nd and Lando Norris in third because of the penalties that Hamilton had, as well as Perez. So there's your top three: Bottas, Leclerc, Norris. There you go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the review of the Austrian Grand Prix. What an unbelievable race it was. Please leave your comments down below. Like, my adrenaline is still high and I'm still trying to calm down from everything. So what a race it was. Fantastic stuff. Let me know your thoughts. And with that said, people, lights out.